Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Blue-Black Rescaminator may be taking over the meta in a big way, but that doesn't mean there's a lack of fun stuff to do, and this is certainly one of them that utilises the new busted hotness of Nadu Winged Wisdom. So this card says, whenever a creature you control becomes a target of spell or ability, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it on the battlefield, otherwise put it into your hand. This triggers twice each turn, and that's for each creature. So the aim of the game here is to assemble Nadu and Nomads en-Kor. We target Nadu a couple of times, we ping off some more lands, and we just keep going. So things like Springheart Nantuko here is a creature that whenever a land comes into play, we get a 1/1, or we can pay 2 and get a copy of whatever this is bestowed upon. And this is kind of tucked into a loose Bant control shell, I would say. So various Bant Zenith decks have been around for a while. Nadu is clearly the most powerful thing you can do in sort of Bant colours, because this pretty much just flips your whole deck. Because once you start rolling with Nomads, you find more creatures, you find more spells, and you just keep going and going and going. So this is trying to leverage that, but instead of being like a full creature combo deck, we've got a load of interactions. So we've got ourselves Force of Wills, we've got ourselves Swords to Plowshares, and we've got a couple of Teferi as well, which can make it able for us to combo without worrying what our opponent can do. And we've also got ourselves 8 cantrips. I'll just move those out here and move the green suns over there just for ease of understanding here. So we've got 3 ponders and 4 brainstorms. So we've got all the cantrips to find the pieces we want, as well as having the 4 Nadus and the 4 Zenith to find them. We've got a few other things that we can be finding with our Zenith. So the Springheart Nantuko, the Scavenging Ooze, Bristly Bill. So when we get lands, we get a target. The target then works off of Nadu and just keeps us rolling. We've got a Sylvan Safekeeper, and we got a Delighted Halfling and some Noble Hierarchs. We're not playing anything like Chord of Calling, which I've seen some of the lists using. We're just kind of just in this neat little Bant shell. And we've even got an Uro just as a win condition when we want it. Our mana base holds a few little spicy ones. So we've got the Dryad Arbor, which is pretty much expected when we have the Green Sun Zenith. But we've also got a Boseiju, a Hedge Maze, Meticulous Archive, and an Otawara. So we've got a little bit of stuff going on in our mana base in terms of interaction. We've got one of each basic, which is always nice to have. And then we're skewed quite heavy into blue. So we've got a couple of Tundras, a couple of Trops, and a Savannah. And, you know, some fetch lands to support all that. So we're trying to control the game a little bit and then just explode out with what is pretty much a combo. We're not trying to like infinitely go with our Nadu here. We're just trying to use this to assemble an unassailable board of like large creatures from Bristly Bill, drawing a bunch of cards and just collapsing whatever our opponent's doing because we have all the cards in the world. Sideboard wise, we've got another Green Sun Zenith target along with Collector Roof. Oh, there's also an Endurance in the main, which is important to note. So we've got this. We've got ourselves a Ground Seal. This can stop our opponent from surgicling our Nadus, as well as just stopping anything like Life from the Loam or reanimation spells. You've got Carpet of Flowers, just one of the best green sideboard cards, just allows you to pull ahead in mana, really important. Some protection against some of these combo-y decks. Force of Vigor, Hydroblast, Prismatic Ending, you know, various answers for problem permanents or spells. We've also got 2 Consigned to Memory, which is another new one. This is counter target, triggered ability, or colorless spell. So this will just counter an Eldrazi, and we can replicate it to counter the trigger of the Eldrazi as well. This card should be pretty good considering how much Cloud Post and Eldrazi there is running around right now. And we've got a little bit of defense for our hand from like scammy style decks. Is this version better than the full-on creature ones with Chord of Calling? I'm not sure. It's certainly going to be less reliable of doing its thing, but it's going to be able to hang in the game and do more things because we can just play this sort of control game with this little suite of cards here. So I'm excited to see how this one pans out. So if you are too, remember to like and subscribe before we get into this one. It does help the channel out. And given the fact that not many people are into Legacy right now because of Blue-Black Rescaminator, every little bit of support you can give me does help at this trying time in the Legacy format. Okay, let's start jamming some Bant Zenith. Alright, this hand isn't the most exciting thing I've ever seen, but I will keep it. We've got some interaction to take out a creature. We've got half of our combo. We just need to find some more mana and a Nadu Green Sun Zenith type thing. Ooh. If our opponent wants to fight over a Delighted Halfling, I don't mind that. We've got a basic in play, so we don't have to worry about a wasteland. There's an Undercity Sewers. Alright. This looks like Blue-Black Rescaminator, which should be able to pick apart our hand a little bit, but we've got a lot of redundancy here. Oh, we're just getting fully entombed and donked this way. Sure. Now, we can answer this, so it's not the end of the world. We lose a creature, which is definitely annoying. I think I'm going to get rid of a Safekeeper here. try and plow this around a daze. Got Force of Will over there as well. They do. This is why this deck is rather frustrating. Okay, they pitched a daze. Okay, so we're going to get backed by this Archon of Cruelty. Going to hit us for a bunch. Getting a little bit of troll cycling down as well. Or swamp cycling from the troll. It's not a troll that finds other trolls, is it? I think we're looking at bidding off a Nomads en-Kor here. It does tell our opponent a little bit what we're doing, but Sylvan Safekeeper and Delighted Halfling is a bit of a giveaway already if our opponent has any sort of information about the format at the moment. So we can use this to surveil, but it's going to be tough. We need to answer the Archon, and we need to do it in the immediate future. It's going to be another reanimate. Bring back the troll. It is. That is what it is. We don't really get any... Okay, so we are just dead here. Alright, we got handled pretty comprehensively there. Carpet Flowers is good here. Ground Seal is pretty good here. Veil of Summers are pretty good here. I don't mind the Prismatic Ending for some of the other bits and pieces they have access to, like your Dalfies and your Bowmasters, that sort of jam. Force of Will is kind of weird. It's one of those things where it feels like you need it, but also it's so bad into the grief side of the deck. Scavenging Ooze is some good graveyard hate, so we want to keep that. Teferi allows us to resolve the combo we're trying to do. Uro is nice once all the dust is settled. If they're just doing scammy stuff, then we can just start grinding out with an Uro, and that's fine. We do need our creatures. They're not really going to be targeting us that much, so I think I'm going to get rid of a Sylvan Safekeeper. And we'll trim a Hierarch, because we're bringing these carpets anyway. I do like having the extra bodies, but I think we just need to focus on what we've got going on. Are we really cutting some Ponders here? And holding up Veil of Summer instead of playing the Ponder on turn 1? That makes a lot of sense to me. And I'll trim one Force, because what's our blue card like? Blue card count? It's not very high. We could just trim all these Forces and then bring in the Ponders. Because Force is so bad into a lot of our opponent's things. It feels horrible boarding it out, but I think that is probably correct. Ground Seal stops some of their stuff. Island Ponder is not a bad place to be. I'll keep it. Now we can answer some fairish stuff. We can try and answer the unfair stuff. Because we're on the play, we get a chance to do this before our opponent does Entomb lines. But if they've got the grief lines, they'll just take this out, and that'll be bad news for us. Ground Seal and Scavenging Ooze don't play the best together. It is what it is. I think we're supposed to get an island here. It is awkward. Our opponent has so many different angles of attack with like wastelands and all sorts. I like the Teferi. I like the Springheart just to bring in some extra bodies. We should have stacked this slightly differently because now they can take out this Springheart Nantuko with a grief. We should have put the Trop on top and then the Springheart and then the Teferi at the bottom. Scalding Tarn from our opponent. And no play. So this feels like a potential Entomb line. We weren't punished for getting these two the wrong way around. Do want the Teferi on top of our library. I think it's a good answer for some of the things our opponent can throw at us. So I will play this out and get this Ground Seal going. Cantrips, if it resolves. If it doesn't resolve, it's taking some cards out of our opponent's hand. You'll see a daze here. Swamp Cycling for Underground Sea. Okay, we just resolved. Okay, so they can't reanimate their creature anymore. That's good news for us. The scariest things they can do are off. We've got the fair stuff sort of covered here. Now we can just play a Springheart Nantuko, fetch land, and get going. Yep, so we have an answer to this. Do we want to play into a daze? How much Springheart Nantuko value do we want here? Okay, I think we're going to go for the Springheart Nantuko this turn. Alright, our opponent is just F6. That makes our life a lot easier. So now we can just go and get a Tundra. Do we want the Tundra here? We already have multiple blue. I think we want the Trop. No, the Savannah, right? We want the green. We want to be able to plow this turn. It's the Savannah. Let's just pop that off. The fact that our opponent F6 let us know we could do that. Now we've got a decent chunk of bodies in play. And we can ease ourselves through the rest of this game behind a Teferi. Teferi also means that we're not fearful of Bowmasters because they can't flash it in response to a Brainstorm or anything. A Fatal Push on our little friend. Sure. It's made a couple of bodies. That's fine. I can't put flowers though. Sign me up for that one. And then we'll go to attacks. Get the bits in. Makes their reanimates worse if they manage to break out of this Ground Seal. Now we get to get some mana here. I would like some... I think it's white mana here, so we can cast a Teferi. Let's fire off a Brainstorm first. Nadu Winged Wisdom. I don't mind you, do I? Do want double Ponder here. I don't think we want the Dryad Arbor, to be honest. So now we can Hedge Maze the Dryad Arbor off the top. And deploy the Teferi. Plus the Teferi. And now we're in a pretty commanding position on this board. An Orcish Bowmasters. I can take out one of our insects. Oh, they're going after the Teferi. Yes, I'll have some blue mana here. I don't really like bouncing the Bowmasters here. But I would like to unlock our hand a little bit from where we're at. Okay, a Green Sun Zenith. Not the worst, is it? So we can fire off a Ponder first. See if we can find the Nomads. Any order shuffle. We didn't find the Nomads, so now we can just Green Sun for our Sylvan Safekeeper, which we've boarded out, haven't we? Let's see. We'll get Noble Hierarch in. We'll attack with this insect token. Yeah, these are my first games with this deck. Yeah, having the Sylvan Safekeeper deck would have been pretty good. Right, so Swamp Cycling. Underground Sea, not going for Surveil Land. So they're probably just going to play the Bowmasters and take out our Teferi. It's slightly annoying, but it's not that. We've got 4 in the air. We've got a Surprise Endurance. A Green Sun Zenith. Let's make some green mana here. We could get a Bristly Bill. It's a fine way to approach this one. Attack for 4. So we can Ponder here if they ping any of our creatures. Then we get a trigger off of our Nadu, which is not really what our opponent wants to do. So I think it's worth pondering here. Brainstorm isn't really where we want to be, but I will take that forest. Where would you like to ping this Bowmasters? It probably has to go at our face. We're going to target our Hierarch. It's going to trigger our little friend. We can play a land here. We will Bristly Bill onto this insect token, which will draw us this Brainstorm that we don't really want. We can play an Endurance. We can shuffle our own library in, so that way we can get the Nantuko back into our deck for next turn. Our opponent can't target our creatures. They can't target cards in their graveyard. They can't really attack into our big bodies. They can wasteland us. That's not too bad. We've got this Carpet Flowers. Mana is not really the issue there. We do need to be a little bit cautious about their Orc army if we make it too large. A Doughty Voidwalker. Sure. A Fatal Push. Targeting our Nadu. Another Green Sun Zenith. Okay. So we can go and get a Nadu again anyway. So yes, let's make some green mana here. Let's get the Nadu. Let's play this. Let's increase the size of our insect token. The Brainstorm isn't really what we wanted. I'm going to keep this Zenith back in case they answer our Nadu. We attack with this. They can trade with both of these if they want to. Is that a problem for us? I don't think so. Because it just unlocks our Brainstorm. Okay. There is a Nadu in our exile zone they can get with the Doughty, but they don't have all the stuff to go with it. Like we do. Although we need to draw the stuff that goes with it. We have a Carpet Flowers which can give us white mana to make a Nomads if we find one. Right, our opponent's just had enough of us. Fair enough. I think I like how I've sideboarded here. I think the Prismatic Endings are the other thing I'm interested in, and maybe bringing back in this Sylvan Safekeeper. Trim out these things, I think. A 1-lander, but it is a stable land with a Mana Dork and a Green Sun. Gives us 2 draw steps to find another land. But if our opponent just picks apart our hand with Discard, then they can take our Mana Dork and it's going to get tricky. I think we need to have 2 lands in our hand. Alright, this is a pretty good hand. Goodbye, Dryad Arbor. I don't really want you. We do kind of need the land. Maybe we get rid of one of our Nomads. Dryad Arbor is so bad into so many things, though. I think I'm going to keep the land. Just playing out Dryad Arbor and getting it pinged down by a Bowmaster is going to suck. Polluted Delta. Are we getting grief scammed or what? Just a Ponder. That's a lot less offensive. I hate it, but here's our Dryad Arbor. There you go, opponent. Play your Bowmasters, make me sad. Wasteland. Okay, that'll catch any of our lands anyway, that's fine. And they can't deploy a threat with an island anyway, so it just kind of resets it by the turn. Can live with that. I think I'm going to play out this Boseiju, because this ideally needs to get a Tundra. And we want to have access to Veil of Summer. So you need to keep drawing land. A Psychic Frog. So we could cycle this Veil of Summer if we want to just draw a card. Do we just want to draw a card here? I think so. Okay, we found an answer for the frog. So this gets us a Tundra. And we attempt to answer the frog. You got Daze. But like, we don't have any more lands. We can't really afford to play around a Daze here. We just have to play into it. Alright. So our opponent's going to start drawing an additional card every turn due to the frog. And that is going to be hard for us. But we might be able to Teferi bounce it. And that's pretty reasonable. That also can secure our combo down the line. Alright, we're getting a Grief evoked. This could be a disaster for us. I took the Scavenging Ooze. They're going to reanimate. Ugh. We're going to lose our Tundra here. Yep. I think we're just going to be wasted out of the game here. A Green Sun Zenith. We can't get a Dryad Arbor with it. So we just have to pass the turn. And this frog is just going to win the game in a few turns, really. The amount of card advantage it accrues is just too much for us to beat. Sometimes you get double wastelanded. You see another frog? No, they're going to animate dead. Take another chunk of our hand away. Yeah, it's pretty good. I think I'll draw one more card, but I think this game is over. And these rounds could end up quite long, so I'd rather save some of my mental fortitude and just concentrate on how I'm going to lose over a course of a few turns. We need to find something immediately that is useful, like either a land or a removal spell that we can hope to draw a land for. But this is just too much. We can't beat the frog from here. Okay, we found a land, which means we do continue playing this game. We need to go and get a mana dork. That's a very good one for our opponent to counterspell. They know everything we've got going on over here. But if we draw a white source, we can bounce the Psychic Frog. That buys us a little bit of time. We could play a Nadu if we draw a land. And then maybe just roll into the Nomads and just win the game that way. Like, we do have to keep playing. But our opponent's got 5 cards, and we're probably never going to resolve anything relevant for the rest of this game. But we still have to continue here, I think. A Flooded Strand. This gets us a white source. I think it has to be a Tundra. Do we just play out the Nadu here? Or I think we have to play out the Teferi. If our opponent has an answer, it has to go on this. Yep, another Daze. Yikes. So this means if our opponent doesn't wasteland us and we draw another land, we might be able to try and win the game next turn with our Nomads en-Kor off of the Nadu. But again, our opponent's got all these cards in hand. If they're good cards, then we're just absolutely cooked. But we have no idea how utterly behind we are because we don't know what those cards are. But our opponent's been sculpting all the livelong day over there. Alright, our opponent's got another play. It's a Dathly Voidwalker. Don't actually care about that one just yet. But our opponent's got 5 cards in hand after this frog connects. I don't think I've ever won a game where where my opponent has connected 3 times with a frog. And our opponent has certainly done that. Can we find the land? Give it a go. Right, we can just cast a Nadu. Just has to be answered by our opponent. There's the Force of Will. And then we're in that same spot again where maybe we can draw enough. But our opponent's got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If they just pitch all their cards to the frog, they win the game here. Entomb. They don't really need to do that. There's an Arc of Cruelty. You going to reanimate that? Yeah, let's just throw in the towel. Yeah, we got crushed pretty hard there. We're trying to assemble A plus B against a deck that is famously disruptive. So it's always going to be a bit tough. Alright, let's go to round 2. Okay, this hand looks alright. It's a little bit slow, but we've got some interaction. We've got the name card of the deck that is kind of essential for what we're doing. An Unlicensed Hearse. Okay, I don't care about that one too much. So this is probably going to be like mono-red Stompy / Prison. Which means we probably want to have a land that can fetch around Blood Moon. Although we could always just counterspell the Blood Moon if that's what we're worried about. Which means that maybe we just throw out this Tropical Island first so we can Brainstorm. Just be mana efficient. Oh well, Drazu Temple, so we're not looking at Blood Moon stuff. Okay. Thought Knot Seer is not going to resolve. I think we'll pitch a Nadu here. I'm not convinced we need to Brainstorm now. What do we get if we Brainstorm now? We have to keep one of the cards we find, but it means we might be able to play Scavenging Ooze holding something else up. Is that worth it? I don't think so. Swords to Plowshares. That is a nice one to have here. I think we're going to Brainstorm. Okay, there's some things. I think we'll put back this land. And probably the Scavenging Ooze as well. I think it's more important to get this Noble Hierarch down than it is to get the... to hold up the plow here. So I think we get Savannah here, and then this can go and get us the Tundra. I don't think we're worried about our mana base that much now, since we know our opponent isn't playing Blood Moons alongside their Eldrazi Temples. So this means that we can luck into the combo next turn. Sure, you can feast upon my graveyard. This unlicensed head is just a nod to how oppressive the Rescaminated decks are at the moment. Just having a little bit of extra edge against them. 2 mana. This is just going to be a Chalice of the Void where X equals 1. Okay. Our opponent is a little bit more on the prison side than I thought. This looks like a line breaker. Sure. So how do we beat through this? We have a Teferi which can bounce the Chalice. But we're under a pretty sizable chunk of pressure here. We could bounce the Chalice of the Void in our opponent's end step and then start doing some other stuff. Or we could play a Nadu, which means that if they give something else haste, this can't attack. I think that's fine, and we can use this Misty Rainforest to get Surveil land. So we can Otawara the Chalice next turn and possibly plow this line breaker. But we can just see what our opponent draws first and how desperate it is that we need to plow something. A Glaring Fleshraker. That's a pretty good Magic the Gathering card. It the Herald's the End. That's going to ping us for 1. That's going to also make their little guys a lot stronger, because they're actually going to have power, and we're going to have to consider them as real cards instead of just some little mana batteries. Okay. So now their line breaker can pump something else, and this gets really awkward for us. Oh, they're giving the Spawn the pump. Okay, so this is 9 damage. That's so much damage, isn't it? So we were going to get a Tundra, so that means we're going to get a Meticulous Archive here. A Brainstorm. That can go into the graveyard. That's not what we need. I don't think we're winning if we're just losing our Nadu right now. We think we need to draw pretty well on this next turn. A Tundra. So we can Otawara and Plow. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. Yeah, this looks pretty bad news for us. Alright, we've got our plan. It's a pretty bad plan. It involves our opponent making some subpar attacks somewhere along the lines. If they just turn everything sideways, we bounce the Chalice, plow the Herald's the End, block, gobble up the Fleshraker. We have to deal with the trample of the Line Breaker though. Yuck. Yeah, I don't think we can beat this. A Sowing Myco Spawn. Well, that's fun, isn't it? That's just going to drain us out for the last points of damage unless we bounce then plow or anything. I think we're just dead here. Our opponent's beatdown was just too strong. I would like some removal spells. I would also very much like some Consign to Memory here. I think the Force of Vigor just to take out Chalice is probably worth it. I don't think I want Force of Negations to try and take out Chalice. That doesn't feel like a good strategy. We don't require Endurance, although it's a reasonable sized creature. We don't require the Scavenging Ooze. Again, it's a reasonable sized creature, but we don't really need it. I don't think we have the time to be pondering around in this matchup. How's our blue card count? 7 plus 8 plus 9, 10. That's 17. It's a little low. It is a little low. But I think that's what we're doing here. Not really feeling like I'm getting this deck yet. No. This doesn't do enough. Okay. Okay, we can keep this one. I guess we've been off a Nadu. Wastelands are a thing our opponent can run, but I think we just have to lean into it and just get like a trop into Halfling here. Then we can get the Nadu, then we can get the Shroud guy. It does cost us lands to get activations of our Nadu though. That is kind of the issue. A Dismember. Sure. That's a Dismember that's not targeting our more important creatures. Hierarch, sure. So we can play out this Hierarch and then we can use the Surveil land to try and dig a little deeper. We probably want to get the Meticulous Archive because we definitely want white mana. We don't have a Lush Portico, which is the other one I would be tempted for there. So we're quite green heavy. I guess we're about to lose our Nadu Winged Wisdom. So it's a bit like the scam where they're just surgically taking the parts we need and then our hand doesn't really do as much as it needs to. So this Nadu is surely going to leave. We can just get another one with this green sun. We do have that level of redundancy, but we're not like the all-in Nadu decks where they've got the Chord of Calling, which just lets them find whatever they need. Let's crack this. Let's get Meticulous Archive. A plow. Yes, please. I think we want to plow in case we find a land that we want to cast here. Or play even. So now we get to draw a card. It's an Uro. Are we just Green Sun's anything for a 1-drop of some description here? Or are we going to hold on for a Nadu? Like, we could just have more mana and then lean into the Uro. The problem with leaning into the Uro is if our opponent Thought Not Seers us, then this goes forever. And then we're just left with mana dorks and nothing else. So I think we're supposed to hold off. And we might as well crash for 1 here. Our opponent does have things like Ancient Tombs. We will need to defeat their life total at some point in this game. We don't have like a Thassa's Oracle win, like the more all-in chord builds, which I think are... I'm starting to think are just better than what we're playing here. White mana. That might not be white mana, it might just be... Alright, yeah. So here's the Thought Not Seer. So we lose the Uro like I thought we would. Well, we might not. They might take the Green Sun. But this is definitely one of the dangers of if we'd have got a mana dork there. We're just left with just dorks and nothing else. Thought Not Seer, still good after all these years. Single-handedly carried the Eldrazi on its back for a while, that card. So we get a 2-drop of like a Springheart Nantuko just to get this out of our hand. Or we could hold off to try and high roll for a Nadu. I think we're supposed to high roll for the Nadu. We can take a few hits from a Thought Not Seer, but if they've got some other big critters coming our way, then we're going to be in trouble. Right. Here's a chunk to our face. There's a Secluded Courtyard. Obviously naming Eldrazi. 5 mana. 6 mana. Is this just going to be a K command? Or have they got an actual big 6-drop they're going to... They haven't put any coloured mana, so it's not Sowing Mycospawn Spawn, which probably just ends the game if they have that. Okay, so it's a K command here. It gets them a bunch of guys. So they got here, the Herald's the End. These represent a load of damage. If they have like another big spell they want to cast, then they can obviously just cast it. I think we would like to hold up the white for a plow if we draw one, so we're going to Brainstorm here. Holding up the Meticulous Archive. Okay, I think the time for Force of Will is probably gone. But this Prismatic Ending isn't really doing us any favours. Maybe Bristly Bill can get us there with... Yeah, I think it's the Force and the Ending. The Bristly Bill can get us there with a Nadu. So we have 2 options here. We can either crack this, Brainstorm, or we can just play the Bristly Bill and then hope next turn to get a Nadu in and do some land stuff. I think we have to crack our land. Let's probably have to get a Tundra because we're looking for a plow here. I guess we could have got Savannah, actually. Right, let's cast this Brainstorm. Force of Will, you do seem to want to be in our hand, don't you? I guess we hide the Zenith, not that it really matters here. Okay, we'll play out the Nomads. But we've got these junk cards on top of our library that we've got to go through. So we can get this Green Sun Zenith. We can't shoot it for the thing we actually want to shoot it for. Here the Herald's the End. Alright, so our opponent's got some damages there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If they play another Hit the Herald's the End, then we have to chump block here because it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we block and we go to 1. Or we just get K commanded or dismembered. Oh, we just get dismembered and we just smash us down right now. Yeah? We got absolutely pulverized there. That wasn't even close. Yeah, I'm not really believing in the deck, if I'm being honest with you today. Let's go to round 3. Okay, I can work with this one. We can do some Noble Hierarch into Nadu. We've got Safekeeper, so we can start triggering it. But we haven't done like the Nadu thing this league so far. I think I will play out the Boseiju here. Protect our fetch land in case we need to fetch certain colours. Or if we have a Brainstorm that we need to fire off later on. Flooded Strand. What flavour of Flooded Strand are we looking at here? Underground Sea. So probably more Rescaminator. So I'm probably going to try an end of turn endurance, or hold up this endurance just in general, and see if we can snag something from our opponent's plans, or force some removal or counter magic on that, so our Nadu's got more of a clear run. Ooh, the Springheart Nantuko is quite... I am a little bit worried about Entomb Reanimate is the only issue. I'm going to play the Tundra and pass. Like, Entomb Reanimate some big O is going to be a problem. Alright, there is a Wasteland. So I want to see... Okay, so cycling control of Khazad-dûm. If they go for Reanimate here, we can try and interact with the Endurance. It might bait something out of our opponent. We don't care if this Endurance doesn't make it through. If it takes a card out of our opponent's hand, that helps us out in a pretty reasonable way. Alright. Force of Will. So no days from our opponent. I think there were definitely days in that situation. The question is, do they have a second Force of Will and another blue card? I think we want to get the Savannah here. Is that true, or do we want to Trop? I think it's the Trop, actually. Multiple green is probably going to be more useful for us. Okay, we're in. We don't need to start just pitching lands to this Nadu. We can wait till our opponent tries to target any of our things, and then we can work it out, because having this mana to actually cast spells like the Springheart Nantuko would be really important. Psychic Frog. Sure. This is not as scary when we've got like a little Nadu combo sewn up over here. Yep, I can take 6. I don't care about that for now. Let's just activate the Safekeeper. We found the Nomads. Alright, our opponents just had enough. If they saw us... Well, they saw the Nomads off the top because of how Nadu works, so they know we just get to untap into drawing at least 6 cards, and that's probably lights out. Alright, Carpet Flowers. We would like you. Veil of Summer and Ground Seal both seem pretty reasonable here. Prismatic Endings. Last time we brought out the Forces, and that felt fine. So I think we can probably try and trim on those. Like, it's just so bad versus the Grief package. It is nice to have the Force as a thing that you can, you know, protect a combo turn with, and maybe we're supposed to value that higher. But we've got like 6 good removal spells, things to stop their graveyard-based stuff. How do I feel about this one? It's very okay, but not exciting. I think we keep it and lead off on the Arbor. Our opponent's mulligan to 5, which certainly gives us a little bit of help. Underground Sea goes. If our opponent's got like Entomb Reanimate, we're probably just going to lose. Would I like a Dryad Arbor? Or do I want to play out this? I think I want to play out the Noble Hierarch. So we get a tropical island here. Alright, we're cycling a troll. That is a sigh of relief. So we can, if they don't reanimate this troll immediately, we can play the Scavenging Ooze and have that as a thing that gets to mess with, their reanimation spells. I think that is worth doing. This covers the scariest things, and then we're just going to be playing a fair game of Magic the Gathering here for now. Let's get rid of this. So our Scavenging Ooze can attack for pretty reasonable rate here. We could bestow this on the Scavenging Ooze and start creating more Scavenging Oozes if we want to. That might be a little bit on the cute side though. Let's just attack with our Ooze. It attacks for 4 because of the Hierarch. Let's Trop. White. Blue. Colourless. Let's try Teferi. Can plus a Teferi here. Let's keep its loyalty healthy. So there's no Entomb at end step here. We know we can start doing some Springheart Nantuko stuff next turn. We're not going to exile our own card because we have things like Uro that care about that. Nadu Winged Wisdom, you say. Our opponent can't cast spells because of Teferi, so let's just send in the Clown. I think I'm just going to get the Springheart Nantuko in for now. And just hold up the Scavenging Ooze. And then next turn we can try and draw a card and get the Nadu combo rolling. We have plenty of bodies here. Our opponents just had enough. I don't blame them. This set was pretty good. This was just kind of like playing almost a Maverick game against our opponent, really, rather than what we're trying to do. But it worked out all right, and we've got a win on the board. So let's go to the 4th round. Okay, this does get to our combo, so I will keep this one. We only have the 1 white source, so I think that's what we protect here. So, Tropical Island, into the Hierarch. Our opponent is probably going to imagine we're some sort of Nadu deck with a start like this. The Trop is a bit of a giveaway, because there's not really any Infect around anymore. Nether Goif. Oakley dokley. So we're probably looking at like the blue-black mid-range deck that I played a little while ago that looked really good actually. Let's try a Nomads here. And let's get a Surveil land, I think. Rather than deploying a second Nomads. Because the Nomads being in play might force our opponent to try and answer the Nomads. If they have a Orcish Bowmasters here, we can take the ping from the Nomads and put it somewhere else. I don't think we need to do that though. Right, let's crack this. Meticulous Archive, we need white mana here. Also got green mana here. Already got blue here. Maybe a Lush Portico would probably be what I go for, but I think we go for the Meticulous Archive because we don't have that. Let's get this Surveil going first. Force of Will. That's not really very helpful, is it? So put that into the graveyard for now. Don't want to keep this Nomads alive. I don't think so. I'd rather have the mana of Plains. We can play out this Green Sun Zenith, but it's into a Daze. I don't really want to do that. I think we play out the Nomads this turn, and then we have the Nadu next turn around a Daze. But this time, if they try and ping off our Nomads, I think we have to send the damage over towards our Noble Hierarch. We're not getting attacked for particularly large sums of damage here. This is what, 3 damage? That's a-okay for now. I don't believe they've got another Bowmaster, so I think you play it beforehand so that you get to grow your attacker and put slightly more pressure on us if you're going to be using it anyway. That doesn't mean they can't draw a land and a Bowmasters now for this Brainstorm though. So now we have Nadu around Daze. But Force of Will is a pretty real card we have to consider. I don't think it changes what we're doing here. It's not really a thing we can play around unless we draw a Teferi, then we can just play that. But Teferi might just eat it, so we'll see what we draw. A Delighted Halfling. That doesn't actually help us here. Can I have a Nadu, please? This has got to eat a Force of Will if they have one. It could eat double Daze. Alright, we took a Psychic Frog out of our opponent's hand. I will play this Delighted Halfling. This gives us uncountable Nadu next turn if we draw it. A Daze. Alright. This is growing their Nether Goif. We're not blocking with our Nomads, who may as well get in for 2. Fatal Push. Yep, our opponent just has a very good selection of pieces to deal with what we have, and we just left with nothing here. I was really impressed with this blue-black sort of mid-rangey deck. I think it runs a couple of copies of him as well. It felt like one of the better decks I've played since Modern Horizons 3 came out. I think the Cloud Post deck is also incredible, which I think was on the channel yesterday. If you haven't watched that, by all means, take a look. Yeah, so our opponent is just so far ahead now. They've got more cards on us. They're going to be having more cards on us. They've got better board presence. They've got more stuff going on. We've got a Surveil land. That's what we're looking at here. But they're going to be drawing 2 cards a turn, bashing us for a bunch. I don't know how we're supposed to win from here. Like, an Uro isn't the worst. We can play and bring it back. That's something, but they'll get a couple of Bowmaster triggers, and the Frog is just going to be up in the air. And they can find any number of things to blow it up. Jump in their Frog. They're going to get in for quite a bit of damage here. I don't think we have a choice here. I think we just take it. I don't know how we're going to win this game. I think the answer is we're not, but we get Surveil, and that maybe helps us. Let's find out. We only have the Hedge Maze to Surveil now. We could get the Dryad Arbor just to block with. Nadu Winged Wisdom. That is a creature that blocks relatively well on this board. We'll keep this land in hand in case we get any of the landfall creatures like Bristly Bill or the Nantuko. Also, we could brainstorm stuff away. Not a great idea with Orcish Bowmasters in the mix, but it is a thing we're allowed to do. Alright, to go for the throw is giving us a Nadu trigger. Is it going to be a good one? No, so this dies. So we block here. We take 2, 3, 4, 5. So we are just dead. Yep, getting absolutely pounded by these blue-black decks. Not even close. Let's have some carpets. Get some veils. I don't think we need to mess around with graveyard because our opponent isn't that style of deck. So we have these tools here. Like, Scavenging Ooze is fine. Endurance is fine. But it just feels like the core thing of what our deck's doing isn't very good. Like, I like this all-in Nadu deck, but we don't have enough stuff to be an all-in Nadu deck, in my opinion. So it's a little bit awkward. How are we supposed to fit these cards in? What is our blue count for Force of Will? Right, we've got 18 cards. This is kind of like maximum Force of Will amounts. But our opponent is a deck where the Force of Wills are okay because they're not a grief deck. Are we supposed to board out these little dorks that just get eaten alive by Bowmasters? Probably. That seems a reasonable shout. These things are all pretty reasonable. How good is Teferi here? It does allow us to just do our thing. We could trim some ponders to make room for these things. But that doesn't feel great either. Because that's giving us 15 blue cards, which just isn't enough blue cards. Yeah, I just don't like the composition of this deck very much. Like, the carpets replace the dorks, that's fine. We definitely need to keep our removal in. Yeah, I think we just have to have a really sketchy 15 blue cards. Yuck. Yeah, I guess. So I think it's turn 1, Surveil Land, turn 2, Green Sun Zenith for the Delighted Halfling. I don't really want to just Green Sun for a Dryad Arbor there, I don't think. Hedge Maze. Surveil action. A Brainstorm. I don't hate the Brainstorm, given our current situation. Would I rather Brainstorm or just go and get this? I think I want to just put this Delighted Halfling in play. Is that true, though? Our opponent has Force of Vigors and all sorts. We don't want to be taken off of blue for this Brainstorm. We definitely don't want to be taken off of green. I think we have to get a Savannah here. Right, let's get the Halfling. They could fail push this at end step. That would be sad for us. They do this and then have a... Alright, so they're not fail pushing at end step. So this is fine now. I'm happy with the sequence. An unlicensed hearse isn't really a thing we care about. They're probably imagining that we have an Uro, which is a fair assumption, I would say. There is a swamp. There is a frog. Frog is strong. We can uncounterably bounce this with our Teferi, though. And that is nice. This can eat a Bowmasters on the way back down on the next time along. The fact that we didn't hit a land there was definitely annoying. But I don't think we can necessarily Brainstorm there looking for a land straight up. We just have to make sure that frog gets out of there. Because as soon as our opponent starts drawing double cards, then I think we are in the process of being completely finished. So we're probably going to see the frog again. Oh no, it's the Bowmasters taking off our Teferi. Sure, that's fine. I'm okay with that sequence of events. Makes our Brainstorm worse, but it means we're not getting hit by the frog, which is the scariest thing that our opponent can do. Veil of Summer, you are a little bit on the late side. Is it? What would I like to do here? We could Springheart Nantuko and get a Dryad Arbor and just make more stuff in play. That seems reasonable here. Do I want to put this on the Delighted Halfling? I think so. Let's get Dryad Arbor. This would be a pretty good day's target for our opponent. They didn't have it. That's nice. Okay, so now we get ourselves a little bit of extra value. If our Delighted Halfling dies, we get to keep the bestow thing around. There's a Brainstorm. Also gives us a slightly bigger creature back on blocks if we need it with the Halfling. But we're getting close to being able to do the thing. And we have a Veil of Summer to protect, perhaps. And Orcish Bowmasters. We're probably losing the Dryad Arbor here, which is unfortunate. It is what it is, unfortunately. We just have to take our lumps and live with it. Okay, so we have an Endurance we can throw down. Just sort of play some boring fair magic. A Delver's Secrets. Cool. And land was always nice here. I don't want to just jam this Nadu, though. I think we need to have the Veil up. We can do it uncounterably, but is that what I want? We could play the Nomads, but I think we're just going to go for the Endurance and take things slightly slower. So we can throw this Endurance down this turn, and then if we draw the right mana, we can then do the uncounterable Nadu and kind of pop off a little bit. That Wasteland is a real kick. Alright, Endurance. If you've got a Daze, we'll shove their graveyard back in. Alright, so this is going to get the Force. Pitching a Force. Just taking 2. It's not the end of the world. But everything just feels so difficult. Psychic Frog, welcome back. You're here to make our life a misery. They got a... Okay, just another frog. Okay, this is... all the cards in their hand, at least. God, that Wasteland was so good. A Green Sun Zenith. That doesn't do the things we need it to. We can't Brainstorm. We can just play the Nomads. God, the mana base on our deck feels so susceptible to removal here. Alright. Our opponent's going to draw 3 cards this turn. What is the other going to flip to? It's not going to flip. Is it a wasteland, though? Don't do it to me. Alright, so they're going to fly over with a couple of frogs, draw 2 cards, and then we have to try and draw a land to play this uncounterable Nadu. And then if we can do the thing, then I think we can be alright. Well, we'll get 8 cards if we get to do that minimum. Unfortunately, these frogs drawing many cards. What a powerful card. Ugh. A ponder. We want to see a shuffle here. Help us out, deck. Enemy deck. Maybe that turn where we could have played the Nadu. We should have played the Nadu instead of going for the endurance. I thought these. Oh god, that's so mean. Goodbye, Nadu. We don't have another mana dork because we boarded them out in favour of carpets because of how good the bowmasters are against us. Yikes. Oh, they took the brainstorm. Well, that's even scarier. That means they don't care about the Nadu. Yuck. It's another bowmasters. That doesn't matter here. Another psychic frog. 1 card in our opponent's hand. Okay, so if we can draw the land, we can do the Nadu thing. Oh, deck. What are you doing to me? I guess we're getting a 1-1. Swords to Plowshares. That is the sort of thing we're probably going to need. But I think the plan is just to get our Nadu going. So I think we have to put this in the graveyard in case we... It's so annoying because if we get wastelanded, that's so brutal. I think we need... I think we... Oh, this is horrible. I'll put it on top and hope they don't wasteland us, I think. So we're holding up the Veil of Summer around a daze here so that we can't have the Nadu Thoughtseize this time. I am very concerned that they didn't Thoughtseize it away from us. Like, they got double Bowmaster and they took the Brainstorm. Right, they've got a Flying Frog. 2 cards in hand so they can attack with all the frogs they want here. Disgusting. I think we have to block the 2 that we can just to stop our opponent drawing more cards. Thanks, I hate it. Don't wasteland us. A Delver of Secrets. Okay. We could cycle this Veil of Summer. It will grow their Orc Army token. But do we care about that? He's got 2 cards in hand. They haven't been flipping the Delver. But I don't know really what that means. I think they're just going to kill our Nomads and en-Kor. Oh wow, no. Alright, let's start doing the thing. Oh my god, we actually get to do it now. We'll let these abilities resolve. Target self. Target self again. Target the Nadu. Where are our lands of yesteryear? Where are the lands? Okay, so now we get to continue going. So we get another guy. Okay, we're doing the thing now. We're doing the thing. Alright, our opponent's just scooping because we're going to go through our deck. We don't actually have like a deterministic kill, but our opponent doesn't know that. We're just going to make a whole bunch of stuff, kill all their relevant guys, do some Bristly Bill stuff too, be left with a bunch of stuff, really. They've seen all these cards as well. Okay, that felt alright. We felt a million miles behind, but the power of Nadu is pretty good. Wow, this is a terrible hand, isn't it? Let's mulligan this one. This is better. We can play a fair game. We'd probably end up pitching this Boseiju here. Mishra's Bauble. So we have an emergency Force of Will here, in case we need to say no to something really problematic. The Scavenging Ooze isn't amazing in this matchup, but it does keep their frogs from jumping and their Necrogoys from being large. I think I'm just going to play out the Flooded Strand. Allows us to Force of Will around days and get a Surveil land. Right, the Nadu is a nice one. Our opponent has seen the Nadu, so they know it's coming. But considering that's kind of the thing that our deck does, it's not really a surprise that we're going to be working towards that at all points at all times. I do not want to play against this. It is too strong. This is worth Force of Willing back if our opponent has one. They did not. Because we already have one non-basic here, we're definitely fetching a Surveil land here. I think we want the Hedge Maze. Get that sweet blue mana on the go. Bristly Bill. Yeah, I'll take a Bristly Bill. Let's get this Scavenging Ooze down first. We want to play Bristly Bill with a land. A little bit worried about Murktides coming down. Although our opponent hasn't shown us Murktides yet. And they've got a lot of stuff fighting over the graveyard, like the Necrogoyf and the Psychic Frog. But if they just jam like a Murktide here, then that's going to be a tough one. Another Psychic Frog. Not a fan of that one. Are we doing Bristly Bill things? Are we Green Sun Zenithing for a guy? I think I'm going to Green Sun Zenith for a guy here. We want the Delighted Halfling. Pretty good days target if our opponent has one. Is the Delighted Halfling... I think the Delighted Halfling is the best thing we have here. Just making an uncounterable guy is where I want to be. We can't attack into the frog because it can be big enough to kill the ooze. We can't block the frog because it's big enough to kill the ooze. It's a case of, do we want to trade one of our cards to stop our opponent getting a card? And I'm not a big fan of that. Especially since the more creatures we have, the more pings we get with our Nadu activations. Fatal Push on the ooze. Okay. Fatal Push on the halfling as well. Yikes. Alright, Bristly Bill. We're going to need you to put in a shift here. Yeah, I think this Psychic Frog's just going to run us over. As it will do while it's still legal in Legacy. A Boseiju. I think we're going to play Bill and pump him up. Okay, the days is unfortunate. Let's go and get ourselves a Dryad Arbor. Alright, they had 2 dazes. Okay, so they got one card that does something in their hand and 2 lands. One of their lands they picked up is an Undercity Sewers, so they're going to get some Surveil before they draw off of the frog. Our opponent's deck is just such a lean, mean Magic the Gathering machine. Alright, left on top, so that's almost certainly lights out for us there. They can probably pitch one of these excess lands to the frog if they want. No, they're just happy to chip away and just draw cards. Okay, I think we have to play this out. Our opponent has shown us Thought Seizers and things. At least if we have the Nadu in play and they target it, we get some value out of it. Orcish Bowmasters. Okay. We can go and get a Surveil land here. Or we can go and get a Dryad Arbor. We still can't block the frog because... Why are they giving it flying? It's unnecessary. I guess in case we play the Dryad Arbor. But we can't really block the frog, because they've got a bunch of cards to pitch to it. So we just have to take it. Otherwise, just give them a free way of crunching through our Nadu. Right, they're pitching an excess land. And another one. I think not enough people pitch early enough with the Psychic Frog. A Wasteland. So they can take out our Hedge Maze here. Sure. So now we want to get Meticulous Archive. We haven't had that one yet, have we? No. Another frog. Understood. Let's crack this. I think the Meticulous Archive is better than getting a Dryad Arbor here. Another Nadu. That can go into the graveyard. Springheart Nantuko. That is a good card. So we bestow it on the Nadu. That targets it, so we get a trigger. Veil of Summer, which we could have left up if we'd have played different mana there. I want to leave up, like, plows and things. A 4/5 can actually check one of the frogs now. There's a Brainstorm. So they can have a 5-power frog and a 3-power frog. So just going to attack with the 1. We have to take it. We can't afford to lose our Nadu at this stage of the game, because that's all we've got going for us. Another frog. Okay, many frogs. Come on, Nomads. Not a Nomads. So we can play this out. Get ourselves another creature. I don't really want to get another Nadu here, so we're going to say no. And then we pass. And we take another hit from the big frog. Maybe we cycle this Veil. This turn, we'll see. They shuffle off that Ponder. 2 cards in hand, so again they've got the 5-power frog if they want it. Ooh. Okay, we get a blocks here. Got the big one here. This can gobble up frog. They know about this Veil of Summer in hand. And they were supposed to make their frog jump. Now they've got another play. A Fatal Push. Targeting our Nadu. So we get the trigger first. Then we get this trigger. We're supposed to stack this differently. We cast this. We're supposed to do this in response so we can get the copy of the Nadu if this doesn't resolve. Okay, it did resolve and we drew the Nomads. They pin their own guy because that's what you have to do. Our creature survives. Our opponent's got 2 cards in hand. And we now get to do silly Nadu things. And this Veil is pretty handy for it. An Orcish Bowmasters, you say? Where are you going to point that Bowmasters? Our insect token? They are pointing out the insect token. We will resolve this ability first. And then I will Veil of Summer. This will let them grow the frog twice. But it gives us just an additional more draws. Which is what we want. So yield to this. Yield to this. Target self. We're just doing the thing here. I don't know which ones have been targeted now, so this becomes a slightly awkward bit. Okay, so we can plow a Bowmasters. We can plow a Bowmasters. And crack this. We should have another white source in here. There it is. Get another guy. We carpet flowers. Cast this Brainstorm. Oh, we don't need this. Put this on top. Get this guy. Get rid of this guy. Kind of just have everything we need right now. Have one of these out. Just keep doing the thing. Oh, we don't have another. I guess we go to attacks here. Attack with the Nadu. We can also do this at instant speed on our opponent's turn as well. So we're going to crack for a bit. Then we go to our second main phase. We add white mana, I think, here. Get rid of the guy that can fly. We've got a Force of Will. We can also draw 2 cards for every creature we have in play. A Delver of Secrets. Fine. Don't care about that. We've got 19 cards left in our library. Going out of the land. This gives us another attacker. Right. Our opponent's just had enough, and that's fair enough. Yeah, basically, we felt like we were losing this game the entire time until we just happened to luck into our thing, which just auto wins. I think if our opponent was more aggressive with the counters they were putting on the Psychic Frog earlier on, we could have been dead. So I think our opponent probably had that one if they played a little bit more aggressively. Alright, that puts us at a 2-2 record going into the final round. Let's see if we can get that positive record. We're on the play for the final round. I'm not big into this one. It's good against a creature-based matchup. I do like Uro just as a thing as well. Dryad Arbor's kind of rubbish. There's so many creature-based matchups right now. Alright, I'm going to keep this. And we're going to play against creature matchup, and it's going to be glorious. I think... Oh, a Chancellor of the Tangle. Our opponent is up to no good over there. I'm not expecting Wastelands, so I am just going to lead off on this Tundra. Chancellor of the Tangle. It's been a hot minute since I've seen one of those. Are we seeing some sort of Charbelcher style deck? Alright, so our Swords of Plowshares are going to be rubbish. But we're not going to mull an opening hand just to find Force of Will unless we know 100% what our opponent's deck is and that we require it. Chalice of the Void, X equals 1. Okay. Can't fire these off into the ether. Sylvan Safekeeper. That's not doing the things we require it to. Okay, Dryad Arbor, it's your time to shine. No land from our opponent. They did all those resources to make this Chalice for 1. A Chrome Mox. Okay, this is probably going to put the Chancellor in it, I'd imagine. There it goes. Okay. Green Sun Zenith. I think this is a trop for us here. Just plays Teferi. We can get this free bounce on this Chrome Mox, which feels dirty. So that's nice, isn't it? And then we can Green Sun Zenith our way around this one. We don't have a Green Sun Zenith thing that can just blow up an artifact, which is really annoying. Okay, they put another Chancellor in. Understood. So we can plus on this. We can cast the Uro. Is that better than just getting Bristly Bill here? And just... I think we're just going to get Bristly Bill and just start clocking. Yeah, I'll keep this this Nadu. Basically what that represents. So next turn the Teferi goes up to 3, and then the turn after we can bounce the Chrome Mox again or the Chalice and then unload some 1-drops. But we can play Nadu next turn. And then every land from there onwards is going to be tasty. Alright, our opponent's just scooping it up. What is our opponent's deck? I don't know. I do not know what's in our opponent's deck. Like, green stuff? Like, are they doing some sort of green stompy list? Or are they trying to do a combo? But Chalice on 1 kind of makes me think that they're doing... You wouldn't run Chalice for 1 in a Belcher deck, though. I don't know what's going on. I think Force of Negation and Consign to Memory look good here. Consign to Memory can just hit all the 1-drops. Veil of Summer probably isn't where I want to be. Collector Roof and Force of Vigor and these endings. These all seem like nice things to have. Is our opponent a graveyard deck? Who knows? I imagine if they are, it's probably going to be like Echo, which isn't something we get to pick up once it's in the graveyard, so we can cut those two. The Teferi bounce in their thing felt pretty good. Also more blue cards for Force of Will type stuff. I think that means we're probably having to cut down on some of this like green stuff, but we need the mana though. It's so hard to sideboard with this deck. Uro's probably too slow. I think that's a given. Bristly Bill and Springheart Nantuko kind of feel like essential ones that we have to keep in our deck. Swords to Plowshares. Is our opponent doing some stompy stuff? Are they doing some combo stuff? Alright, I'm going to say that our opponent isn't doing combo-y stuff. We'll get rid of those and we can just trim on one of these Hierarchs. I don't think the Safekeeper is very good, but we might need it to dig into our deck to find more forces once we've got Nadu set up. Consigned to memory, consigned to memory. So the good thing about consigned to memory is that we can replicate it to push through a chalice. Are we supposed to keep this hand on the back of consigned to memory? The rest of our hand does get where we need to go eventually. I think we'll try it because our opponent is doing some mystery stuff over there. They didn't reveal a Chancellor. Chrome Mox. Okay. What was getting printed under this one? A Veil of Summer. An Ancient Tomb. A Trinisphere. That's a bit of a pain, isn't it? Maybe they are just like a mono-green aggro stompy deck. I just don't know what's going on over there. Alright, we're just going to try and surveil towards more lands. You're not a land, you're in the graveyard. And maybe we're supposed to mulligan to Force of Will here. Or Force of Will / Force of Negation. It's like 1 in 6 cards. 1 in 10 cards, because we got 6 of them, sorry. Undermounted Adventurer. Yeah, our opponent is on a big stompy thing. I see. And we've boarded out our Swords to Plowshares. Well, well, well. Now, to be fair, we're not winning this game anyway, because of how far behind we are already. Our opponent's deck did so little in the first game, I didn't really know what was happening. So, guess we play this out, we take some more damages. This Undermounted Adventurer is going to clock us pretty quickly, and we don't have a good answer to it unless we can combo off, which is doable. Okay, as a Chaos Adventurer. Okay, so we're going to be at 15, and then we're going to be at 10, and next time they're going to hit us for 10. Yeah, I think we can just concede this one, and now we have a better idea what our opponent's doing. We can probably board out some of these jankier bits and pieces. So, where are the consigned to memories? We do not require these. I'd very much like this Pyroblast. Yes to Swords to Plowshares. Force of Vigor, I think, is fine here. I don't really want the Force of Negations. We're more worried about their creatures. And then that leaves us trying to find one little bit. I don't think we need the Collector Roof as much as I thought we might do. So I think we can take that one out. Do want the Euro. It's quite slow against what our opponent's up to. No, I don't think we do. Okay, yeah. I will play this Noble Hierarch into Bristly Bill. Blood Moon is something our opponent can have. How much am I supposed to respect that? How much am I supposed to respect this Blood Moon? Do I need to respect it? I don't think I do. We just get a Forest here, play the Hierarch. Next turn, play a Bristly Bill, play a Meticulous Archive. Then we got quite a good selection. But how useful is having a Forest in play? It's fine, I think. Alright, we'll hedge a little bit against the Blood Moon. Like, we're probably just going to have to counterspell the Blood Moon if they play it anyway. Although we have 2 sources to get around it, so maybe we don't have to do that. I don't think we're countering the Chrome Mox. I'd rather they pitch a bunch of resources than we get the thing that comes out the top end. A basic Forest. A Chalice of the Void. We don't care about this for now. Alright. Bristly Bill, here you go. I think we play this. I think we want to make our Bristly Bill bigger. Because the Hierarch is probably tapping. We don't want this force. We want an untapped mana source. Not well, actually, it's not even necessary. We can just play the Nadu and then Dryad Arbor and just pop off. Was this going to be an Undermounted Adventurer? I think we just say no to this one. And now we're in a pretty solid spot. Here comes the bird. Oh, we got a fetch land, which is even better. So the first one goes on this one, just so we can attack for more this turn. Hydroblast, pretty good. Not in the face of the Chalice, but we might be able to answer that in the near future. I think we just want a Tundra here. Or is it the Savannah? We're probably not playing out any of our things regardless. So maybe we just want a Hedge Maze. Yeah, I can buy that. So we get the Surveil on. This can go into the graveyard. Plow, that's not really the most helpful. But we are attacking for 5 here. Oh, sorry, 6 because of the Hierarch as well. And then we have the Dryad Arbor next turn. So we should be able to out-aggro our opponent's aggro from this point onwards. So if they put the initiative into play, we get to just take the initiative whilst clocking our opponent for a huge amount. Blood Moon. We already have stuff in play that is good enough to beat this. Target Nadu here. A Green Sun Zenith. Can Green Sun Zenith find us? We can shut off there. Actually, did we board that out? I think we did. The Collect Roof. Yeah, we did. I think we go to attacks here. We Green Sun for a 2-drop that makes mana. Or we can go and get the Safekeeper. Oh yeah, let's just get the Safekeeper. We can draw a bunch of cards whenever we want to. Just keeps us safe from all sorts of things our opponents can have. Alright, our opponent's scooping it up, and we finished the match and the league. And we did get the positive 3-2 record. Alright, let's talk about how I feel about this particular deck, shall we? Honestly, I did not enjoy playing this one. It felt like a lot of the games we were winning. Obviously, that last one was just commanding. But what a lot of the games felt like was our deck was really susceptible to lots of things our opponents were doing, whether it was Wasteland, Discard, Pinpoint Removal, Counter Spells, whatever. And they could undercut what we were trying to do quite easily. And then we just had to hope that we drew really well. And we had to assemble exactly the 2 things we needed. Now, yes, the Green Sun Zenith does effectively give us more copies of Nadu. But the problem is, we're trying to get Nomads en-Kor in play. Yes, we can do it with Sylvan Safekeeper, and, you know, sometimes Bristly Bill can do it too. But generally speaking, we need the Nomads to really pop off. But we can't tutor for Nomads with Green Sun Zenith, because it's not green. So it just felt really clunky. Now, I've played against some of these builds that are running Chord of Calling, which felt great for them, because Chord of Calling can go and get the Nomads, or it can go and get the Nadu. It can kind of do either. And those decks just had more creatures instead of like these sorts of slots, which meant they were more susceptible to some things. But I think the nature of how powerful the Nadu Nomads en-Kor interaction is means that you don't really care what your opponent's doing as long as you assemble your combo. And having a deck that's reliably assembling this combo just feels like a better place to be than this, which is kind of like, we're doing some of this sort of fair stuff. Just trying to, plow and force our way through the games. But then we can sort of backdoor into the combo a little bit. But then we have a lot of slots that don't feel very strong on their own. And I do just think the decks that are more dedicated to doing the things seem better. Now, if you were to play like a Bant Stoneblade list, where you had your Stoneforge Mystic that can go and fetch you a really big threat like Cauldra or the Batterskull, as well as having like Lion Slash for utility, but then, the Shuko, so you could actually have a way of tutoring for the other half of this, which is what I think the problem with this particular deck is. I don't like tutoring for the Sylvan Safekeeper that much. It can start doing stuff with Nadu, but we don't always have the most amount of lands. We were getting crunched up on lands a fair bit, and I do like the Sylvan Safekeeper. I just don't think it really gets to shine as much as you would like in this. Now, maybe I'm being a bit cowardly with that, but I think you want to be able to tutor for both halves of your combo in your deck. So I think this is the worst Nadu deck I've played so far, and probably the worst Nadu deck I've seen. It's still fine, we still got positive records because Nadu is a broken card, and if you ever do the thing, you just win. But it felt like we were basically getting lucky to assemble our Nadu against what our opponent was doing. And our opponents had to make some mistakes. I think the blue-black player, if they just pitched cards earlier to Psychic Frog to do more damage, especially when we knew they had like land in hand that they didn't need, then we wouldn't have been able to have the life total to finish that game off. And we did get lucky in that regard. So I think this deck just doesn't really do it for me. I'd rather be playing like a sort of Bant Stoneblade control list where you've got Nadu just as a thing you can do, whilst also having, like Tameo, Stoneforge Mystic, a little Stoneforge package. So you can kind of just do that and then go, okay, well, I can tutor for both halves if I want to. I don't think that build had Green Sun Zenith, really. So maybe you weren't even tutoring for it. But you just, Nadu is a fine card on its own anyway. And you just don't get the Shuko if you don't need it. And you can actually play a good controller game. Whereas here, we're kind of trying to do like Green Sun Zenith stuff. But we don't have like the really cool, exciting haymakers that you would find in some Green Sun Zenith decks. We're just kind of pooling around. It's not like we've got like an Elvish Reclaimer which can lock down various bits and pieces. This deck just didn't really work. It was very hard to find enough cards, enough blue cards. Like, the Force of Will was basically extra protection when we were going off once we'd drawn a few cards. But by that point, we were already going off, so it didn't really matter. Like, there was a few times where the Force of Will did come in clutch for sure, but it felt difficult to sideboard because we had to weigh up how many blue cards we had. And then our game plan outside of Nadu just felt very weak, to be honest. And I think something like a Stoneforge just being a good threat would be better for that. I think Bosch and Roll a while back on their channel played a Nadu Stoneblade list that looked very good, where it was just, I don't know, we're just going to have these Nadus chucked in with this one of Shuko in our deck. And that, you know, that seemed fine. They were just doing like regular Stoneblade stuff. And oh no, they're having to run a 3-mana 3/4 with upside. So this card was just fine. And they weren't running like clunky Nomads that don't do anything on their own and stuff like that. And like the Stoneforge isn't going to be getting you a Shuko anyway. And sure, maybe you draw a Shuko one time when you don't need it. You can still put on a Tamiyo, peck away for 1. It's not terrible. You know, it's not great, don't get me wrong. But it does allow you to pressure Planeswalkers a little bit, or take little bites out of people's life total. Like, it's not a card you're going to play unless you have the combo thing. But if it's in play, it's just this constant fear that it maybe you can just go off at any time. And like I say, it's a one-of that you tutor for. So I just don't feel this deck is where I want to be. It kind of feels like it's trying to do too many things. It should either be like a Bant control deck with a little bit with like Nadu and Stoneforge packers to just go off, or it should be the full-on Chord of Calling build where you just, okay, we're going to assemble Nadu multiple times in the game until it goes, and then you lose. And those decks have impressed me a little bit. Like, they're the sort of thing where it looks like they're, you know, they're not really getting there, but they have such inevitability by having the chords that allow them to find the Nomads or the Nadu on top of the Green Sun Zenith. It just felt pretty solid. And they have all that Wirewood Symbiote rebouncing the Elvish Visionaries. So they've got a decent chunk of dig in their deck just to find stuff anyway. And they've got all the tricksy, sort of old school Elfies type stuff in them. And those decks just look better. I'll probably try and play one of those on the channel at some point soon, but we don't want to be playing Nadu all the time. But yeah, I just felt like this was kind of the worst of all worlds. And we still managed a 3-2 because this is an A plus B combo that does basically win you the game. It's very hard to lose the game if you're drawing like, I don't know, 20 cards in a turn. And especially when the lands just come into play. That's so egregious. And it really is. I'm not expecting Nadu to last particularly long in Legacy. I think this card will probably need to go at some point, just because it takes a long time to go through the combo. It's a very powerful combo, obviously, because it basically just wins you the game. And it can slot into a bunch of other stuff. Like, I think the Cephalid Breakfast build is also better than this as well. It just slots in a lot nicely, in a lot nicer fashion there, because you can start doing your Nadu combo until you get to a certain point and go, okay, then I can just do my regular breakfast combo and win now. And that just feels a lot stronger than what we're doing here. So yeah, we had a positive record. We beat some powerful decks as well, but it just didn't feel great. I think we got very lucky to win some of the games we did, and I honestly wouldn't recommend this one. I think you want to play breakfast, you want to play Stoneblade, you want to play the chord builds, and I'd rather play any of those than this one. Again, it did feel like I was just at the mercy of my decks so often. Now, saying that, I am very much not a Green Sun Zenith Magic the Gathering player. That is not really my jam. I do quite like classic elves, like classic combo elves. That's quite a fun deck. I'm not great at it, but I enjoy playing it, and I think it's got lots of cool stuff in. This kind of didn't really feel like it was doing that much cool stuff. It was just a bunch of stuff that has this oops, I win button, but when you don't have that, it didn't feel great. Now, we did have a few games where we kind of won without doing the big silly combo stuff, but yeah, I'm not convinced by this one. But if you've got thoughts on this one, by all means, let me know. What do you think is the best Nadu shell? I'd be intrigued to see what you think. And with that one, I think I am done for today. So please like and subscribe. Help me out in these dark days of Blue-Black Rescaminator. I think my views, because nobody really cares about Legacy right now, have dropped by quite a bit. And, you know, got to pay some bills. So like and subscribing does help me out a lot. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.